welcome to episode 7 of season 2 of the Jumping the Rail podcast. This is Mark Redmond from Champaign, Illinois. And once again, I'm joined by my buddy, my tag team partner, the Italian Stallion, Gary Vaselio. Gary, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm alive and mostly well.
Mostly, that's all you can hope for, really. And knowing you, that says a lot. Because
Yep.
you're always aching in some some part of your body.
Yeah, the whole family had the COVID. If you heard the last, so it's been recovery and being sick and everybody being sick and going to doctors, coming home from doctors.
Well, hope everybody's doing good, man. But I went and got the booster on Friday, and may have made the mistake of getting the booster and the flu shot at the same time because I was pretty much out of commission for the whole weekend, just recovering, and not a lot of fun.
The shots and the boosters always put me out for about a day, so I have to get mine on a Friday after work or something.
Yeah, that's why I did mine on Friday. Funny thing is, I think I caught a cold from my wife right before then. But anyway, enough of the shop talk about our various medical problems. Let's talk some wrestling, Gary. So, I don't know if I'm guessing you didn't watch the NWA pay-per-view over the weekend on Saturday night.
No, I didn't even. Only spoiler I read was that Titus was the new champion.
Titus. Not Titus. Tyrus won't fit under the ring.
No, he'll be in the ring.
Yeah, that was the big thing. It caused a lot of commotion online after Tyrus beat Trevor and Cardona because a lot of people wanted Cardona to take it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he's popular at all. Like there's usually like a good mix of like, oh, you're just hater. No, people are just like, this dude is horrible. Like he's there. One guy said, why don't you just make Tim Storm champion again? He can still wrestle better.
Yeah, he still looks like he could go. He's well into his 50s, I think, but right now I think he's like their GM on one of their TV shows. But yeah, everybody I think was wanting Cardona to take the title, just mainstream name, and also damn good as a heel on that show. So that was
I can probably see why he wanted Tyrus because he's on Fox News. He's got
that's it. That's the big, and that's also probably part of the reason why he's getting so much grief from fans because maybe they are not big on the Fox News right wing media.
Yeah. But I mean, he's going to take the belt on Fox News. He's going to talk about it. It's going to get national exposure.
Yeah.
And I think that's what NWA needs more than anything. I'm sure I watched it when it first came out on YouTube and I enjoyed it because it was very old school and it felt very like that. But then I just kind of, during the pandemic where they kind of shifted things, I fell off and I've never really went back.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way because when it first started, I'm with you. It brought back that old studio wrestling vibe to it, and I really thought it was awesome. They had some really good names that once the pandemic happened, they all left because NWA basically went on hiatus. They stopped running TV, like their YouTube show, so they all went to AEW or Impact, and so they kind of had to start from scratch again when the lockdown lifted, and they're making the most of it. Because I watched the show on Saturday. They had some really good matches on there. Davey Richards defended his MLW National Openweight title against Colby Carino, which was a really fun match. Colby's one of my favorite guys on that show. He's such a slimy little heel, just like his old man. But
you're a Carino, you're gonna be a heel. That's just I think that's in the contract.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, just kind of a brief rundown of what happened on that show. The Fixers, Jay Bradley, right? The former Brad Bradley in the Indies. him and Wrecking Ball Legursky are the U.S. Tag Team Champions there, and they beat the Spectaculars to retain their championship. Let me see. Davey beat Colby. Homicide dropped the junior heavyweight title to Kerry Morton with his dad Ricky at ringside in a really fun match. The Hawks Airy, which is Luke Hawks and his son PJ, for those that don't know, lost their bid against La Rebellion, which is Bestia 666, and Mecha Wolf for the World Tag Team titles. Bestia's Damien's kid. You remember Damien from WCW? So
Yeah,
Damien's.
Damien had a good gimmick. I don't remember. It was either him or Halloween that really couldn't work very well, but they both had.
I think that was Halloween. I don't know. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah.
But Damien was in their corner. He's been in their corner lately and helping them cheat and all that. Just good stuff. And there was Max the Impaler, the non-binary nightmare, who we talk about a lot on my other podcast, the 01 Shootout. She won a casket match over, I forget what the girl's name is. She's Natasha something. I apologize because I don't remember her name off the top of my head. But she's got the Sinister Minister is her manager, Max. So it's a pretty fun package. Max is the one that's getting a lot of attention because apparently Sarah Logan has been kind of giving her look in her big comeback on SmackDown.
Oh, really?
They're very different characters, to be fair. Sarah's doing the Viking thing, with War Machine, but Max is more of like a Fury Road monster character, for lack of a better term. But they both wear the brown leather and have the dreadlocks and the face paint, so
yeah, it's
you can see where there could be a little. Hey, wait a minute, But,
there's new, especially in wrestling.
Are there any real original ideas anymore? Anyway,
No, it's like that's like a local band saying like Metallica stole a riff from them or something. It's just it's like, dude, I'm sure they did, but I'm sure yours isn't original either.
No. The only original riff out there is Johnny B. Good.
Yeah.
Because that was in 1955.
Yes.
Yes. But so I don't know if you've been hearing the news about Nick Aldis, Gary. Apparently, he put his notice in. He was going to work the pay-per-view against Odinson, but he put his notice in. Then he started taking some shots at the NWA in interviews and on social media. So Billy Horgan suspended him and just sent him home.
Right.
So now he's just not doing anything with the company until he's a free agent or until he signs with somebody else.
This kind of goes back to our last discussion, and I kind of feel vindicated about my views on AEW being like almost completely kayfabe now, because if you remember all the internet darlings when Aleister Black, or whatever his name is now,
Malachi
Black. Am I still on there?
Yeah, you're here.
Okay, all I see is me now.
Yeah, I got you.
But
I'm taking liberties with the directing.
yes, don't shoot. I'll turn work into a shoot. But so like all the internet darlings were like, "Oh, give him his release. Give him his release. He deserves it. It's this and that. It's mental health. It's blah blah blah." And then Buddy Murphy's next, and he's gonna leave, and none of them left. They were given their release. They were given the freedom. Oh, and guess what? None of them left. You know why? Because it was all work.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe Billy Corgan's either that or Nick's for some reason just mad, and I could see why. Maybe he's not getting paid enough. He did carry that company, but if you hitch yourself to NWA, even the most you're going to get paid isn't what you'd get paid probably high up in NXT.
Yeah,
and Aldis has proved himself enough that he could go somewhere else.
Oh yeah,
but he doesn't seem to want to. So there might be something there, but it could just be all kayfabe too. And so I I enjoy the idea of not knowing, and so I kind of like this new era that Tony has kind of started to bring around, and maybe Billy now, but and Matt Cardona. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't give him any credit. Like Cardona, he doesn't like he's on his channel and he's on Twitter all the time, but he doesn't give
Oh,
anything
yeah.
away. So I mean, props to him. He could just be telling everybody, "Oh yeah, this is all work," you know. No, when especially when he was doing the GCW stuff, he the he was that character. He was
Yeah.
that character all the time. And
He
Chelsea,
still,
the same.
yeah, he still does appearances for GCW and still does the same thing.
Yeah,
He's he's just the action figure guy who's the asshole heel, you know.
yeah.
But going back to Nick, it's pretty safe to assume, and I don't know salaries or anything like that, and I don't care to. It's pretty safe to say he's probably making a fraction of what he even made an impact when he was there, when he was
He
the world champion.
he might make more just because, but he couldn't be making a whole lot more. Like
No,
because man, Billy's just Billy. Like he talked about getting TV deals and he said he had more people, but I haven't seen him materialize. So he still is paying like out of pocket, and I don't know where he's making money.
maybe from outsourcing his talent to other shows, like when they book somebody to come in for another company, maybe he gets a percentage of that. But with Aldis, I also know he does have a business outside of the wrestling. I think he has a vitamin supplement business or something like that in Tennessee. So I think that's where his probably where most of his bread is buttered these days. And they do very well for themselves. Him and Mickey, they're doing fine. Not necessarily
Yeah,
worried about them.
okay.
But
But
I do agree with you this though. Nick Aldis, I think, saved the NWA in 2019.
I wasn't a big fan of his at all, and over time I've grown to appreciate him.
Yeah,
Because TNA as Magnus or whatever, he was just
he was
so
just
so.
there. Yeah, he was just one of the guys. Uh,
But
the one that sold me on him was when he wrestled Cody at All In. That's when I really appreciated his work for the first time. And then that moved on to doing Power and all that stuff.
yeah, I think people are going to look back at the run Cody had during that time and give it a lot more credit for what's happening now than what he gets now. For some reason, people just kind of forgot that he was, although the Bucks were all over the place, they were always all over the place. But Cody
Yeah.
made it a point to be high profile everywhere he went
Hmm.
and elevate whatever he went to and be vocal about it. And he had a plan. And
Yeah. Well,
really,
shoot, remember that list he put on Twitter, like as soon as he got released? All the
yeah.
guys he wanted to work and everywhere he wanted to go.
Yeah, I mean, him and Jericho versus Omega in Japan. I think that's the reason we're at where we're at, where you have wrestling every day of the week. And no matter what anybody wants to say about like he made this smart decision. WWE, I'm guessing, backed up just a truck full of money. Like
I would
I would
probably.
imagine. And Vince promised him the moon. And it was, hey, I'm gonna get this back for death. But, but yeah, all this was their savior the entire time. So I can't imagine Corgan unless Nick just wants the title back and Billy's just telling him no. And I can maybe see that.
Right.
But you had it for years. So kind of one of those maybe you should let somebody else run with that for a while and do something else or
Yeah, give a
I
chance to work with some of the undercard guys, kind of build them up a little bit. And
yeah.
like the guy he was supposed to work with over the weekend, Odinson, just another guy with a Viking style gimmick, which I don't know if it's a gimmick. Maybe that's just his actual like lifestyle. But big muscled up guy, looks great, and not bad in the ring. He's like a big powerhouse. But he could have really benefited from working with a guy like Aldis on that stage.
Yep. But it would be more of a shame to me than any of the other stuff if he's going out this way in TNA, in not TNA, NWA. But he may be, but it
Yeah,
could all be a work just to
yeah,
get eyes on. But he may be hurt or something, so he needs time off, and the better way to get time off is just to write him off.
yeah. That could easily be. Yeah, it's kind of remains to be seen, I guess. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. It's always fun when Billy's on Busted Open too, because if this is a work, he's full work mode on the interviews. He's not revealing anything if it's
Yeah.
work or shoot. So, uh, so getting away from the NWA a little bit because I mean, there's only so much we can talk about with that. Let's talk a little bit of AEW, Gary. The big announcement last week, Saraya said that she's cleared to come back. She's going to wrestle Britt at the pay per view, and yeah, I had an issue with her promo a little bit, and I was kind of vindicated because Bully Ray kind of said the same thing the next day on Busted Open. Uh, because Paige comes out, she's very emotional. Naturally, she's
Yeah,
got the
clear.
new lease on life to come back from injury and all that. But then after she goes, spends a good 5 minutes putting herself over, which no harm in that. Saying all this like I recovered substance abuse. I got hit by a car and wrestled on the same day. All this stuff, and then she just pretty much buried Britt on the second half of that promo, saying you haven't done anything. You're not. You don't know what it means to be a star. Britt Baker made that women's division in AEW. She
Yeah.
uh, shoot the matches she had with Thunder Rosa, the street fights, the cage matches, holding that women's title for close to a year, if not a year. I forget the exact time. And there was a while when she was probably the best thing going on the show, male or female.
No, yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I guess my two responses to that being devil's advocate would be one, you pride yourself in on that show with writing your own promos and being able to get yourself over.
Hmm.
So you're the star women's attraction on the show as Britt Baker. Saraya comes out, I'm sure she's talked to you about it, and she starts burying you. Well, you're the star. Shoot,
Yeah,
talk,
it was,
say
yeah,
something, unbury yourself, be the heel, do
yeah,
whatever, or just sit there with your mouth shut.
yeah,
Do
or agape in her case. If you
which
watch that promo, she was
which
just standing there.
I didn't mind because Britt's been strong for so long, and most everybody else she's been cocky with. This is the first time we've seen her not cocky about and almost worried. And I think that's what they were going for, that she is just not sure about herself and she's starting to have a little self-doubt. And it would be nice to see some promos with her saying that or something like that. But I think that's what it was. They were just trying to show a just a little bit of a chink in her armor. And I think sometimes Bully Ray forgets that it's a work.
Sometimes you
And
wonder how much he's working on Busted Open.
yeah, but
But
I mean, considering like how many people he's buried on the mic or in the ring or just beat half to death because so I mean I always although he has a lot of great thoughts, I mean from some of his opinions I've heard were super great. I just think this is one of those things that what do you want out of that promo? Do you want it a back and forth? Do you want Britt? And if you want Britt to be strong still, I want her to look a little weak because you're so used to her just going in and winning. Make her look a little weak. And if you, that promo made her look a little weak, but if you want to make her look strong, she's gonna have to make herself look strong. She's not got anybody writing for her.
right,
So go do that. Go be the star. Go Go defend yourself. Go stand up. Go do your job.
Yeah, that's
So
fair. I kind of wish that they didn't jump right to Saraya versus Britt on for her first match. I kind of wish they would kind of build her up. Like I know Saraya's a star. I mean, that's not up for debate or anything.
yeah,
But
but yeah, like there's nowhere to go from here because Britt's the top of the mountain.
right, the only other thing would be Jade, but she's
No,
got her own
hey,
business going on.
no way. If I'm Tony Khan and just acquired Saraya, who just came back from almost dying from a neck injury, just got cleared, am I putting her in the ring with Jade? Not gonna happen. She's gonna kick
Yeah,
her face, or she's gonna kick her in the back like she's not supposed to, or she's gonna hit her too hard. And I'm not saying Jade's gotten a lot better,
she
but
really has.
she is real strong and she doesn't know it sometimes.
She's very green.
She's very green.
Yeah.
No way I'm putting Saraya in the ring with her right now because Saraya is gonna have some rust. Put her in there with somebody who knows what they're doing.
I would have
Like
put her in with there with Serena Deeb if it was me.
oh well, yeah, Deeb would have been better probably because well, Deeb's just fantastic in the ring.
Oh,
Plus,
she's awesome.
she's mat based and she's not going to be doing a bunch of dumb stuff. Like
Right.
from the interviews Saraya I've heard with Saraya, she's saying that she's going to change her style. She's not going to take any kicks to the back or the back of the neck. Not a bad idea.
Yeah, the
But
quote I heard. I want to mention this to see if you heard the same thing. I saw somebody posted. I think it's one of the dirt sheets. But I'm not going to say which one. Paige says she's cleared, but no one is allowed to do anything to her that isn't in front of her. That's that sounds like a pretty heavy spin.
well, yeah, that when she was on Renee Young's podcast, that's where I heard her talking about it. She was like, "Yeah, I'm cleared, and I've been taking bumps, and that's fine." But she's like, just from like basic PTSD and just the idea, like that's all it took last time was a kick to the vertebrae.
Yeah,
She's not going to let anybody kick me in the back, and I'm sure she's going to be more cautious. Hopefully, unlike Danielson and a bunch of the
yeah.
other dumb neck problems.
Oh, that was a conversation we had when he first came back from
Yeah, I mean,
when he got cleared.
tech.
First thing he does, doing that corner drop kick and landed right on his head.
Oh yeah, but technically now he's taking less, but he's working a different style. I wish he would work more of that style where it's more mat based and not take. You don't need to take Germans all the time, and you don't need to take dragon suplexes. Be the guy who gets out of that move. Like
Yeah,
there's plenty of ways to do it. Just protect yourself, man. Like it's just
be a
it
counter
it.
wrestle.
Well, it's always funny because they get a surgery done, they come back, they're supposedly 100%, which they're never 100%. And so the whole next 6 months, somebody's working on that body part because everybody knows it was hurt.
Uh-huh.
So you got to think that's really not good for that. So, but I'm hoping she's going to take the smart route. I'm hoping she's going to change her style up a little bit. I'm hoping that just be a bump factory like she was.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And if she's committed to that, I think she'll be fine. And Britt's outside of a Serena Deeb, I think Britt's probably the best person to be in the ring with because Britt doesn't take a lot of crazy chances or anything like that, and she
No.
doesn't do a lot of the throws or anything. She's more like just a striker. But she's got that a little bit of that submission base too. So I'm expecting that to be a good match.
I mean, she's a lot like the Nick Aldis, basically of AEW. Like her and Cody were the people who brought them through the pandemic.
And Moxley.
And Moxley. Unfortunately, honestly, I think what got so many eyes on AEW was the Brody Lee Memorial show because
Yeah.
that was super emotional. It was booked where all the faces were always winning, big 6-man, 10-man matches, and it was just booked correct. And it
Mhm.
was they showed so much heart and respect, and they got a lot of eyes. And it's
Yeah.
unfortunate that that had to happen. I think Brody Lee would have been, unless Tony Khan him, he, he would have been a huge star.
Yeah.
But
And I got to say though, one of my favorite parts of that show, they played Old 55, Tom Waits at the end of the show.
yep.
You don't get Tom Waits on wrestling shows, but such a
No,
good song though.
Tony's for some reason not afraid to spend money on music.
Yeah, I think he's smart in where he's doing it. He's not doing it for everybody.
Yeah.
It's not like Paul Heyman tells people, pick whatever song you want. I'm not going to pay the licensing. It's
Well, yeah. It's like any independent show where you go and everybody's got. Well, it's probably still either Pantera
but they just looped the intro to Walk.
or Disturbed.
Right.
It's as my buddy John used to say. He's like he worked an independent show one time where two guys came out to Down with the Sickness and they made the third guy change his music. They're like, no, that's not part. They've already no. You got to find something else. So,
I think it was the night the line was crossed show, ECW, and like 3 or 4 of the first 5 guys all came out to Thunder Kiss 65.
there was a
Which,
lot. There was a lot of White Zombie back in the day.
yeah. Well, hell, Jericho's still using White Zombie when he does the Lionheart gimmick, because that's what he used in Mexico. All right, so moving on from Saraya, Gary. Uh, I mentioned Full Gear coming up this Saturday. We actually will not be watching it live. I guess we're going to 01 Saturday night in Mattoon.
Oh, is that this Saturday?
It's this coming Saturday, and you are my ride.
What time is that?
Oh, it's at doors at 6. Show starts at 7.
Well, I we'll have to talk about that.
We will discuss. We'll discuss
Yeah,
off air. But yeah, so
yeah,
yeah, that show's going on the same time the Full Gear's happening Saturday night. So I'll have to watch the show on the next day, which is I think like this. I'll have to watch that and then go right into Survivor Series. Or wait, no, Survivor Series is next Sunday, like a week from Sunday. I can't keep
yeah.
track of these things sometimes. But anyway, uh, they haven't announced a whole lot. They've announced a decent amount of stuff for Full Gear, and not a bad card overall. To be honest with you, Gary. Uh, let's run through it. Darby Allin and Sting taking on Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. And I'm glad Lethal and Jeff are getting a chance to team up again without having to deal with Flair.
Yeah.
Because from what I've seen to Jarrett, he can still go.
Yeah, he looks great. You must
Yeah.
have found. We'll call it a fountain of youth.
Yeah, we can call it that.
Whatever it is. I'm not saying.
Hey, he's free of the chains of pharmaceutical dependency. So
Yeah. All these old guys looking great. Like it's not all diet and exercise, but
positive outlook.
modern medicine is amazing. So we'll go with miracle
Yeah.
modern.
I could honestly, if I don't really care to see Sting anymore, I get why he's there. You know, he pops the crowd and everything, but the thing with him and Darby has to come to an end. They got to move on.
One of them needs. I think we should turn heel. It would be best for business. I think they don't really, because he's not doing anything, and I don't know. I don't know how much more Sting can do. He's already done dives and crazy stuff and worked matches that he probably shouldn't have worked and done things he shouldn't do at 60 years old, and
Yeah.
he's proved everything he needs to prove. I don't know what else there is. I mean, he's wrestling a maybe more ancient than was it I can't think of his name. one of my favorite wrestlers of all time.
Muda?
Muda, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's wrestling Muda one more time. He's doing all this. Just, man, if I were Sting, I'd be like, yeah, Muda's my last match. And,
Yeah, just have him and Muda just go out together, just for old time's sake.
But I'm not Sting, and it's not my career. But
Right?
yeah,
He's a big boy.
Well, hey, man.
So, my only hope in this match is that Sting does not get the fall on Lethal. That's my biggest complaint has been Sting has been pinning the young guys in these tag matches. If somebody's going to win on his team, it should be Darby.
Yeah. Darby should be getting the heat from this.
Especially when he made Hardwood tap out when they wrestled FTR. Like, come on.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked about Saraya and Britt, so we won't go too deep into that. Luchasaurus against Jungle Boy, Jack Perry in the steel cage.
I would have liked this to have lasted longer. Ooh.
Oh, where'd you go?
Well, my
You got
light
some-
went. For some reason.
Is somebody debuting in your house? Because your light's out.
No, I had it plugged into my PlayStation, and then all of a sudden my PlayStation went off.
Well, you never look better, buddy. I'm kidding.
There. Apparently, PlayStation went to sleep because I didn't.
I see. All right, so continue your thought there on Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy there.
I wish it would have lasted longer. I think they probably should have had Jack be out a little longer. I would have seen more matches with Luchasaurus on his own, doing his own thing, with Christian behind him, becoming more heel. And then you can have a blow-off match. But if the cage match isn't the blow-off match, then I don't know what it is. The only thing I in this is, let's say Christian's actually healed up. Into the cage match, Christian comes in, throws off the sling, and starts beating up Jungle Boy.
Yeah,
or Jungle Boy thinks he's going to beat up Christian, and he just takes off the sling and starts using his arm, which would be a great heel move.
Oh, awesome! And there's no better heel than Christian right now. That's for sure.
No. And it's unfortunate as much as it is awesome, because I do love Christian, but it's unfortunate that nobody else knows what they're doing.
Yeah, there's so many people to learn from, but I don't know how much learning is actually going on there, but
yeah,
neither here nor there.
No, that's a complete. I could fill 3 hours with people learning from their elders or not, and which is not happening anymore. So, and it's ridiculous. Like, that's what you're there for. You don't. There's no other occupation on the planet where somebody can say, "Well, I'm just going to figure out how to do this myself. It'll work just as well." Like, you can't walk into a factory and then tell the old guy that ran the line for 30 years that you're not going to do it his way, because it's not going to work. They're going to run you out of that place. You're not going to walk onto a football team and say, "I'm not going to learn these old plays. I want these new ones." Or tell the guy who's been on the line longer that you're just, that's my spot now. Well, you know how to line up. I know how to line up the way I like to line up. It's not going to work.
You're 2 yards off sides. Shut up. This is how I do it.
That's how I do it. Yeah. All these younger guys that are like, "Well, this is the new style, old man." Well, this new style is going to give you about a 15-year career.
I've made dozens of dollars doing this style on the independents.
Yes, make money while you can, because you won't have a career past like 10 years. Hopefully you like hot dogs and a soda. Because that's all you get after that.
Yeah, and if anybody makes me think in this situation, it's Darby Allin, just because that kid scares me to death every time he goes out there, because I think he's going to do something stupid one of these days and really regret it. But hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I want to put that out in the universe. This is bad luck.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
Anyway. The Eliminator Tournament final will be at Full Gear. They don't have the participants lined up for the final match yet. It's going to be the winner of the match between Ethan Page and Bandito against the winner of the match between Brian Cage and whoever wins the Lance Archer Ricky Starks match. So still, it's a lot of stuff to iron out. I think we'll pretty much know what's going on by Friday after Rampage is over. I hope Ethan Page takes the whole tournament. Just he's so good.
It's going to be Cage versus somebody, I'm guessing.
Yeah, Cage is wrestling the winner of Archer and Ricky Starks, and then the winner of that match takes on the winner of Ethan and Bandito.
If history repeats itself, which it usually does, Archer will somehow lose to Ricky Starks, and Ricky Starks will fight valiantly, and then some. Even though Brian Cage is literally like 7 times his size and muscle mass,
yeah,
it'll be a charisma thing, and then he'll have to cheat, and then it'll be Cage versus hopefully Ethan Page, but I don't know. And it's what MJF versus Mox, right?
Yeah, main event is Mox and MJF for the title. We'll get to that. We got a few more to get to here. That's at the top of the list here in the main event. But yeah, so a lot of loose ends on that tournament before we can really get into who's going to win it. TBS Championship, Jade Cargill versus Nyla Rose. I like the matchup just because for as green and physical as Jade is, Nyla can take the beating and probably dish it back out and maybe try to so maybe get her to slow down a little bit.
Slow down.
Andre 101.
It does kind of remind me of the Brock versus Strowman match, where Strowman getting with that big knee and then everybody needs that as well. Just that sock in the face, just to tell you to stop.
Yes.
Because Jade, when she first got there, I know her and Red Velvet got into it because like Jade just punched her in the face, and she didn't understand like why she was upset. She's like, "Well, we're gonna get hit. This isn't ballet." It's like, yeah, but you're not supposed to try to hurt her. She's your dance partner, not your opponent. This isn't real.
Yeah, you're gonna get hit in the face. That doesn't mean you have to punch them in the face.
I can't remember who said it, but it used to be like everybody looked like they were getting hit in the face as hard as they could, and you barely felt it. And now it's like they're not hitting you at all, but they're just punching you dead in the face.
Like, yeah, I think that's how Bruce Pritchard said that.
Yeah,
I think I don't know Pritchard say that, but yeah, I've never heard it.
Used to be the point to not hit somebody, and then all these kids watched New Japan and All Japan when they were teenagers, and like, oh, strong style. Like, yeah, it's good for a niche, but you can't. Like, if you're working that many days out of the year, you're gonna hurt somebody, or you're gonna get hurt. You can't keep that up.
No. So, if I had to predict, I'm saying I think Jade's probably going to take that match and get her belt back from Nyla, but I don't see it being a Matt Classic, for to be honest. Let's move over here. The Ring of Honor World Championship Fatal 4-Way. Jericho's defending against Claudio, Danielson, and Sammy Guevara. This could be an overbooked fiasco with all the Blackpool Combat Club guys, all the Jericho Appreciation Society guys out and about.
Well, now the curtain falls.
Now we can see what's going on behind the curtain at House Facilio.
Yeah, I didn't know why. Yeah, there's a refrigerator back there, but yeah, it's either going to be super good or off because it'll be too many flippy doos. or not enough, or just the right amount. Sammy will do some big spot, and Danielson will probably do something he's not supposed to, and Jericho will do something. He'll pull something out of the bag of tricks, and Claudio will swing. Maybe Claudio will swing two people. I don't know.
Maybe.
But
I predict the fireman's carry big swing combo out of Claudio.
Four ways always have a tendency to become a cluster. You always have to figure out for some reason why two guys are constantly not in the ring. Like, oh well, this guy got powdered like 7 minutes ago. But when he comes back in the ring and takes 3 moves in a row, he's going to get fired up. Apparently, powdering somebody is a way to win a match.
I guess so. But I don't. What's that?
But only in 4 ways.
Only in 4 ways. That's right. My prediction, I think Jericho takes it. I think there's more money to be made with him as the Ring of Honor champion right now.
Oh yeah.
So but I think it'll be a fun match. AEW World Tag Team Championship, the Acclaimed against Keith Lee and Swerve. I think this is finally the match where Lee and Swerve split up. They've been teasing it for weeks.
Yeah.
And,
it's either going to be a split or Keith Lee's turning heel.
Oh, could be.
Just out of nowhere, because he's been vocal about not liking it, but he hasn't stopped working with it.
No, so he just kind of gives him the side eye every time he does it. It's like, oh, you rascal.
But if they get the titles back by him turning heel, then they'll have
money
a title.
Talks.
But
I don't see them taking the belts off the Acclaimed anytime soon, though.
It's so over. I don't know why you would strip them of the titles, because you can't. I don't want to see Swerve and Lee get them back just for a few weeks or just for one pay-per-view and then have the Acclaim chasing again. They've chased their entire career in AEW, so just I would have them win. I don't know what you do with them versus FTR.
I think that's got to be next.
Yeah,
FTR's been basically waiting very patiently for their shot, but and even though I'm not a big supporter of public scissoring, I do think the Acclaimed have been doing a fine job as the tag champs.
Yeah, I just don't know crowd-wise where you're going to go with that, because they're both over, like huge over right now.
Yeah, it's just one of those wait and see things, I guess. I mean, FTR, they've also been doing the thing. They've been going to Japan, defending over there, defending in Mexico. So, I mean, they got plenty of stuff to do in the meantime. So, they could just as easily just kind of keep them in the wings and bring somebody else up. The Guns, I guess, maybe have a shot coming up. Any number of teams, 3.0, you know. But it's one of those. The tag team division in AEW is better now than it was a year ago, but they still have a little bit to do. They don't have a lot of like top flight contenders ready to go yet.
No, anytime you have to throw a team together with just 2 dudes, but man, tag team divisions have just been kind of sparse for decades now.
For a while,
Even when you look back at what people consider like the heyday back in like the Attitude Era, it was the Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian.
Yeah, that was it. The APA was right underneath that.
Yeah, and like Too Cool.
Right.
But they were really never contenders. The only people that were ever contenders, so there was like 6 tag teams, maybe. Right. Every once in a while, the APA would get the belts, but most of the time they just came in and beat people up.
Right. So. Well, I'll tell you who I wish would have gotten a real shot with a top spot was TNA, Test and Albert.
Yeah.
Like when they had Trish. I thought they were way better than a lot of people give them credit for. Because I kind of binged some 2000 WWF a few weeks ago. So I saw a lot of TNA in that few days, so to speak.
Yeah, early 2000s WWE, you'll do that.
Yeah.
That'll happen.
But I digress. Let's move on. Uh, AEW Interim Women's World Championship. Tony Storm versus Jamie Hayter. I always say this. I hope that Tony drops the title because putting an interim on the title is just makes it so predictable that whoever has it is going to hold it until the champion comes back. In this case, Thunder Rosa. But I want to see that title get shuffled around, especially with this women's division, because outside of Britt and when she's healthy, Thunder Rosa and I guess now Saraya, there's nobody really in that world title picture that is untouchable, you know?
Yeah.
So that
Well,
belt, it could be a hot potato.
they didn't do anything with Ruby when she first came in. She could have been top of the card.
Yeah.
They didn't do it with Athena when she first came in. They kind of gave her a little bit of, now she's not doing anything.
Now she's just shooting on young girls and playing them too rough, getting a little heat.
Yeah, I mean they both can get promos. They both know their character. They both know how to work. And of course, you put them in division where you need people like that, and instead of elevating them, you just kind of stick them in nowhere.
Right.
So
now with Tony and Jamie, I do like that there is a backstory there. I guess they were besties back in the UK, so that makes for a good story. But I don't think they've explored that enough, like in
no,
storytelling sense.
haven't really said anything about it.
I think it
I
was
mean,
one passing comment by Tony in an interview.
if there's one story that's going on that I think that I think Thunder Rosa is hurt. That there's been a lot of stuff she has done in other
Mm-hmm.
promotions and just in her career that kind of makes me think she's not the easiest person to work with. And I know a lot of people gave Marina Shafir a lot of crap about the match she had with Thunder Rosa.
Mm-hmm.
Marina's green, and
Mm-hmm.
Thunder Rosa's supposedly not. She should have let her through that match, and even all the bad looking stuff should have looked better. Like that's your job as a veteran and if you're the best in the world at what you're doing, you want everybody to believe that you're the best. Everybody needs to look incredible in the ring with you. That's your job. And that's not just some dude that wrestled for a short time in his 20s saying. That's any professional wrestler who's had a title will say, when I finally learned that making these young guys look good made me look good, Shawn Michaels, before he got hurt, I thought he was okay. He came back, started giving people offense, giving people shine. He was probably, in my opinion, maybe the best all-around wrestler to ever do it.
Oh yeah.
But he changed his mindset. And I think there are some people right now who have this mindset that they don't have to play nice with anybody. So I'm not sure where she's going to be when she comes back. I don't know who they want to beat her or if they want her to get beat. But I wouldn't care if Jamie Hayter got it. Then you could have finally have the breakup angle with her and Britt because Britt wants the title. And Britt would probably just tell her, "Give me the title."
Yeah. I will say this. I would say a hard pass on putting Thunder Rosa with Saraya when Thunder comes back. A little too stiffsky. But
yeah, absolutely not. Nope. I'm Tony. I'm way too much invested, just in case. Plus, I'm not so sure. Like once Saraya really gets her, because she's not like a delicate snowflake. And I know Thunder Rosa's done some MMA and stuff, but Saraya has been fighting with men her entire life,
Since she
like
was like 12.
legitimately. Oh, that could get bad real quick. I think there would be somebody punched dead in the mouth.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a little soccer hooligan in Saraya that's waiting
So,
to come out.
so now that I've said that, I do want to see that match.
In due time. I want to see Saraya get shake off the ring rust first.
Oh, it's gonna. I think it'll be a while. But took Punk
Yeah,
a while to
but
get back.
there's long-term storytelling there then. So
Yeah.
what a novel idea.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the main event, Gary. Moxley defending against MJF. Everybody's pretty much predicting that MJF's going to win the title on Saturday. I kind of hope that Moxley keeps it just to kind of expect the unexpected kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I want to see. I either want to see this sudden change of heart he's had be a complete work and him go just even more monster heel, like have the firm come out and him act like he's trying to stop him, but
Mm-hmm.
they just come out and just destroy Moxley, destroy the Combat Club that comes out to save him, and then like he just pins him, like old school Jericho pins him, like say,
Horseman style.
yeah, just I would, then you could cut the promo where like, yeah, I told you I was a devil and you tried to tell me I wasn't. Well, who's the devil now?
Right.
You know,
I was knew you guys were stupid and you just proved it. And that kind of
but
thing.
the other way you can go is, yeah, he loses and you try to turn him as much face as you can because everybody's cheering for him now anyway. And he's kind of doing the halfway heel, halfway face thing. And you could still have him be a cocky face,
Oh yeah.
but I I don't know how well that works for how long because that's a kind of a tenuous line to walk. It's easier to be one or the other.
Yeah.
Either be face or Stone Cold heel.
Right. Not everybody can be Tracy Smothers.
No, that's probably fortunate.
Well, and I love Tracy, but it's like you said, it's a slippery slope, and not
Yeah.
everybody can afford those golden helicopters.
Yeah. Well,
Still a little hot at Archer for stealing his catchphrase.
well, that was the thing with Flair. Like Flair was, there were times in his career, even early on, that he wasn't really a heel. He wasn't really a face. He was just kind of there.
He was just
It
Flair.
was just Flair, and I was like, it was okay, but it wasn't as good as when he was, you know, a total heel or a total face. It just
Yeah, and
doesn't.
I agree with that. Hey, speaking of Ric Flair, today was, I think, a special anniversary, Gary. 33 years ago today was the I Quit match between Ric Flair and Terry Funk at the Clash of the Champions. And you know me, I love me some Terry Funk. And him with Gary Hart was just a match made in heaven for me.
Funker, man. How many retirement matches did he end up having?
Probably more retirement matches than regular matches.
I still my friend Jim Desmond does a great. He used to do a great Funk impression, but all it was a complete. It was like a complete reenactment. If we were someplace where he could take off his shoes, it was the Funk Forever in Japan. You know that one where he's taking off his boots and throwing them, and he takes off his socks and throws them.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Saying, Japan forever, forever, and that Jim does that entire, and then he'll just start forevering like this clock forever.
I think Rocky Romero borrowed that when he does his Forever Lariats, like he has two guys in the opposite corners, And he goes back, forever, and it's clotheslines back and forth, constantly, like, repeatedly.
Yeah.
So everybody loves Funk, man. He's so good.
Yeah.
I went down a '97 ECW rabbit hole, found the match with him and Shane and Sabu from Hardcore Heaven '97 when Douglas won the world title back. And in the middle of the match, Francine interferes, because it's Francine. That's what she does. And then Dory came out from the back and chased her away, but not before hitting about 3 good old European uppercuts on the franchise.
Dory moved like an old man when he was like 30.
Yes, he's one of
But
those guys like JJ Dillon. He looked like he was 60 in his like mid 30s.
but the crazy thing with Dory is like he didn't move any different when he was like 70.
No,
he still moved
he still
super
moves like
slow.
that.
My favorite Funk matches are Terry when he was kind of wild haired, youngish, and he was tagging with Dory in Japan. And they would work like the older Japanese guys at the time.
Uh-huh.
And Terry would bump like an absolute maniac. He was getting thrown out of the ring or like kind of and he would just fly out of the ring, and he would take these huge bumps in the corners, and he would bump, and then he would go tag Dory in. Dory would get in slow, go hit some uppercuts, act like he was going to do the spinning toe hold.
Uh-huh.
Crowd pops, gets it on there once, but can't get that second spin around.
Mm-mm.
How he got crowds to pop for a spinning toe hold. But that move was over.
Yeah. Especially when Terry did it in ECW, he'd still get a pop for it in the late 90s.
Spinning toe hold. It's
We
like
talked
the
about,
industry to get out of.
yeah,
You just
kick.
you pull your foot away.
Yeah.
You have the they have to spin, and when they spin, they're barely holding on to your slippery
Right.
boots.
You have a free leg to kick the guy off.
You have up. You can kick him with your other leg. You can pull that foot away. There's a plethora of options.
You could use the foot to trip him. The possibilities are endless there. And you're talking about the matches he had in Japan. The most of the ones I've seen is him and Dory against like the Briscoe brothers over there when they wrestled Brody and Hanson, and those 4 guys just beating the shit out of each other. Is part of the reason some of these guys have shortened careers if they watch old wrestling.
Well, Hanson's career lasted quite a while, but
yeah,
like
you didn't see any of it.
No, you never saw his own matches. Not because he didn't want.
He physically couldn't.
Yeah. Oh, there's nobody I love watching more than Stan Hansen, probably. But it's just he just doesn't care. No, absolutely doesn't care. It's like, you want to rest? No. There's nothing restful about a Stan Hansen wrestle.
Not a thing.
You want some working punches? Not gonna get them. You're not gonna get them.
I'm gonna hit you with a lariat. Okay, just take it easy on me.
Not gonna happen.
No. The scariest thing is the guy goes in. He can't see 2 feet in front of his face, and he's throwing these wild lariats. Adam Page got knocked out by a lariat from Moxley a few weeks ago. If that was Hansen, he would have killed him.
Oh, it would have been. Well, if you would have tried to sell a Hansen lariat the way Page was trying to sell the King Kong lariat, he would have died because Hansen would have been upset by that.
He would have picked him up and done it again.
You would just pick them up and done it again. And it would have killed him.
Yeah.
He was saying like, well, that's just, I was like, no, that was a guy trying to oversell the lariat. You just take that. You take a big bump with it. But he was trying to do a flippy-do sell. and he didn't get his head turned all the way, and he got hit. It sucks. But that wasn't Moxley's fault.
Just they kind of got crossed up. It's like a catcher trying to catch a fastball but getting the curveball instead.
Yeah. They look real. It's always funny. It's always funny when the catcher gets crossed up and then the umpire gets hit.
Oh, yeah. Nolan Ryan fastball, and catcher thinks it's going to be a changeup. The umpire gets one right in the face mask.
So if MJF wins, he's turning mega heel. If he loses, he's going to become a face. We'll know Sunday, or Saturday.
Well, you'll know Saturday. Well, the people will know Saturday. I'll know Sunday.
Yeah.
But I digress. I think it'll be a fun show. It'll probably be a long show because that's kind of what Tony does with those pay-per-views. They usually go right around that 5-hour mark. But when you're old like us, though, it's kind of a pain, especially trying to watch it live. And you have to be up for work at 5 in the morning. Not so good.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, that's one thing to look forward to is it's going to be a good weekend of wrestling. But this is where I'm getting better at my segues, Gary. Let's talk about a bad weekend of wrestling in 1997.
Look at that.
For Canadians on the whole. Because our luck on this show, Gary, is whenever something really juicy has an anniversary, it's usually the off week from when we do the show. So we're always a little tardy talking about it, and this is no different. Last week on Wednesday was the 25th anniversary of the Montreal Screwjob, which, if you've been living under a rock the last quarter century, is when Vince McMahon rang the bell on Bret Hart during his world title defense against Shawn Michaels at the Survivor Series. Bret threw a hissy fit, went to WCW, and then his career went down the toilet. Is that a fair assessment?
Pretty close. There was my take originally was I was a huge Bret Hart mark, so I hated Shawn Michaels and hated Vince McMahon. Blah blah blah. After I watched Wrestling in Shadows, I still thought Vince was garbage. I still think he's not the best guy to ever live by any means. Don't get me wrong, because he's a carny.
Has something happened to put him in a bad light? No, kidding.
It'd be easier to count the things that happened to put him in a good light, probably, especially within the last decade.
The XFL not being one of them.
Yeah. Well, he sold it.
Yeah.
Just sell it the second time. But there was an aspect of Bret screwing Bret, but there was an aspect of Vince screwing Bret, because from what I've uncovered with interviews and people talking, Bret was getting increasingly hard to work with. He was more and more full of himself, which a lot of guys happened to him in those days because they were still fighting for spots.
He was the top guy. He was trying to stay that.
Yeah, and you had Austin coming up, and you had Michaels always sniffing around, so he was fighting for that. And this was also the era where they thought it was a good idea to give people creative control. And so Hogan used that all the time in WCW, and that's what happened to WCW.
Yeah, Hogan used it like a jazz musician uses a trumpet.
Yeah, you can talk all you want about how big. Like, the only thing he did was he gave Hogan creative control, and Hogan never knew when to drop the belt. He never knew when it was his time. He always thought you could get better ratings with him as champion. All you needed was him on television, and it would have been just as fine. Like, Savage with the title would have been great for a while, with something new. Even Kevin Nash with the title, once he beat Goldberg, at least that would have been different. But then you just always giving it back to Hogan. Hogan wasn't the best worker of all time to begin with. But then you bring
What?
Bret. Well, yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and stick with that because I'm not wrong. I'm
My
wrong.
Gordolinas is furious right now.
I know that I know the popular thing to say is, well, in Japan he was pretty good. Well, in Japan he wasn't horrible. I mean,
Yeah.
but
Hogan was very much the face of work smarter, not harder in the wrestling
but
business.
but that's part of my whole thing with like looking at the whole situation with Bret. He had the offer from WCW, but he knew
Mhm.
what WCW was. So if you're going to stay in WWF and you know because Vince has told you I can't afford to pay you
Mhm.
X amount of money, and you, so I mean, you still go to WCW because of the money, and then you expect them for some reason to be magnanimous with the title. So it's like slapping a snake on the head and then like picking it up and it not biting you. That's just love.
Right.
That's that's not that's not him being nice. It's just you have dumb luck. Like Vince
Right.
was, of course, going to bite, and
It's
Michaels was because Michaels was Michaels at the time. Like if it were
Mhm.
Shawn Michaels now, no, that wouldn't have happened. If Shawn
No.
Michaels wins, yes, it's going to happen. Like Brett played himself into that position.
Mhm.
If he would have been a professional, I don't care where you were in the world, he should have been a professional when his boss said, "You're dropping the title tonight because you're leaving in a day. I'll let
Right.
you say goodbye to everybody tomorrow, but you have to drop the title tonight." And if Brett would have been professional about it and said, "Okay," because it does, Mark, I'm going to give you a little secret. Professional wrestling is predetermined.
Now wait, we can't have those kind of hot takes on this show, Gary. That's pushing your luck a little bit.
So he worked himself into a shoot, is
Yeah.
what he did. And he got too big for his britches. Not see on the other side of that, not saying what Vince did was right because it
Right.
wasn't. A lot of the boys, like Mick Foley, walked out. Undertaker threatened to walk out. There were a lot.
Undertaker threatened to kill Bruce Pritchard.
Yeah,
I don't know if
yeah,
you heard the story. Taker wasn't wrestling that night, but he was sitting in Gorilla with Pritchard the whole time, just watching the show. And right before the main event, I just watched this main event yesterday. They had the long shot of both of them walking from the back to the ring, like backstage. So
yeah,
before they did that, Bruce told Taker to go hide out in like Vince's office or dressing room, so he didn't get shown in Gorilla. So Taker left, and then what happens. And as they're walking back, Taker's waiting on Bruce because Taker thought that Bruce knew something and was just trying to keep Taker away
yeah,
because Taker would have been out there
yeah,
if he knew something was going to happen. Because Taker was still the policeman of the locker room back then in '97.
yeah. I know Mick actually quit. He was gone for a
Yeah,
few days
and he missed
because
like a week.
yeah, and there
Because
were
with
other people.
Rude, Rude left because of it.
Yeah,
That's when he
he,
did the two shots on the same night.
so it was. There was a lot of dumb on both sides, but
Yeah,
there was a lot of just ego, and that's what it was. That's what it ended up being. Like Brett should have been the professional because Brett was a professional. That's Vince's. That was Vince's baby. That's his ball, and
yeah.
he can take that ball anytime he wants and go home with it. That's that's the thing that's always been in WWF. And if Brett wanted to change that, he should have bought the company.
Yeah.
So as much as I love Bret Hart, still love him to this day, he's not on high as on my list as he used to be, but
No.
I think he's amazing. He should have just said, you know what? Yeah, I don't, and I would, he could have said, I don't like Shawn Michaels. Never have, never will. He could have said it to his face, said, Shawn, I don't like you.
I'm
And
sure he did.
I'm sure he did. But he should have still dropped the belt to him.
Yeah.
And just a professional thing, came out the next night, said goodbye to everybody, and went out on his back in the company.
Right. Or hell, if they would have done the. Well, no, they can't really do that. Because I heard another story that they were gonna do the schmaz with Michaels at Survivor Series, and the next night he was gonna drop it to Shamrock. I don't know how true that is. But I'm gonna play devil's advocate here for a second, Gary, with on Vince's end of it. That Survivor Series was right around 2 years after Medusa dropped the title in the trash can on Nitro. So he was still snake bit about that, and that was probably a pretty driving factor into why he wanted to get that belt off of Brett at Survivor Series. Because he doesn't like as much as he knows, as well as he knows Brett. Who's to say Bischoff wasn't going to offer him $500,000 to drop the belt in the trash can on Nitro?
Yeah, I mean that's understandable. And then the outsiders had already left, right?
Yeah, the outsiders were gone. Waltman was gone. I think Jarrett had just come back from WCW. But yeah, it was still kind of that influx of guys moving. Like Crush hadn't left yet, but yeah, they were still. It was right in the middle of that time when they were really log jamming the NWO with everybody. Basically, anybody that got released or left WWF went and joined the NWO, and that's what happened to Brett. He did the same thing.
NWO had more valets than some factions have members.
Yeah, Rude, Virgil, Elizabeth,
the disciple.
Oh, Beefcake. Poor Beefcake.
I remember one time Hogan told him to use his finish, and it was like a stunner. They gave Beef the stunner. Nobody else could do. Well, Disco could do the stunner, but
he did the Chartbuster.
Yeah, I think Disco even changed the Chartbuster for a while because.
Yeah, I think he made it into neck breaker for a while.
Yeah, but they never did anything with Brutus, and he came in. I didn't even know it was him because he had the big beard.
He completely changed his look. It took me a few weeks to figure it out.
Yeah, I was like,
I seen him. He was the Booty Man.
That's Beefcake.
But then it just makes so much sense that it'd be Beefcake. For Hogan to have a lackey, it's got to be Beefcake.
No, yeah, I understand the idea that I completely understand Vince being gun shy at very best about saying, hey, yeah, you know what, Brett, you're the champ, you have creative control, but I mean that was a slippery slope too, because then any wrestler that from that point on that was like, well, I want creative control in my contract was just going to know that you're lying.
Yeah.
And if you really wanted something bad enough, you were just going to do it to them. So, I mean, that's taking trust away. But when you look at it, creative control went out the window shortly after that. You never heard of people creative control anymore. Vince was like, no, and I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, the closest thing was Hunter, but he was on the creative team pretty much.
Yeah.
But
well, even Stone Cold didn't have complete control over his character. I mean, that's why he took his and went home.
He tried to pull a little bit of that and said, yeah, I'm not working with this guy. And he said it wasn't because he didn't want to work with Lesnar. He wanted to do it on a pay-per-view. He wanted to make some money on the match instead of an unadvertised TV match.
No, I understand Stone Cold's stance on it more. Plus, when you like watch him talk about it, like he was beat up, like everything hurt, like he had been just working for months and months. It's like the dude was just done for that time, and if he wouldn't have taken that time off, his body would have forced him to.
He would not have made it to WrestleMania 19 if he hadn't taken the time off. But
no, I agree with your assessment of Vince. Like I said, when I was younger, I was all Bret Hart all the way. Screw Shawn Michaels for what he did. I hated Shawn after. I hated Gorilla Monsoon because he restarted the 60-minute Iron Man match.
that should have been a draw.
Because it screwed Bret. It should have been a draw.
Yeah.
It should have been. Was that a dusty finish?
Oh boy. But another thing to think about, everybody always, it's when people tell the story nowadays, it's a three-headed monster. It's Brett, it's Sean, it's Vince. And as it goes, the story is Vince told Sean, apparently Sean knew about it, but
No, there's no way
Vince told him to deny. Vince told him he would take all the heat, and Sean he didn't want Sean to say anything because he didn't want him to get more heat from the rest of the boys than what he already had in general because of his personality. But so, but
at the time, lack thereof.
yeah. But in Sean's defense, though, if your boss tells you to do something, then you're going to do it. Same thing with Earl Hebner.
Yeah, I mean, I at the time I blamed him, but Sean did what Brett should have done because his boss would do something.
Yeah.
Listen to his boss, and don't get me wrong, because there have been plenty of things my bosses have told me that I've said no because that was dumb or dangerous. But when you're wrestling, and especially then, somebody else below Vince would have said, "Hey, I need you to actually pin Brett. We're gonna do Brett in this match." Yeah, you can say no to them, like Bruce Pritchard telling you. Then you go to Vince.
Yeah.
But Vince is like, "Yeah, this is what's happening."
It's like it's happening whether you like it or not. It's like, well, crap.
So, are you gonna go to WCW when he fires you? Is that your best hope? And then hope that they don't shut down because he'll never hire you again. Like Vince would, if Sean would have refused, he would have either found somebody else to do it, or he would have figured something else out, and Sean would have never done anything.
Yeah. And it's easy to say Sean had a welcome invitation to the New World Order waiting for him in WCW, considering that all of his buddies were already there. But it's like you said, who's to say that company's not going to, like, that company will last 3 more years, pretty much.
Yeah.
Before just shit the bed. So, yeah,
I mean, all those guys made enough money, or should have made, but they didn't apparently enough money to survive the rest of their life. But apparently, some people don't know how to save millions of dollars.
Then you got your Scott Steiners who buy a Shoney's franchise in Georgia, and dude does fine for himself.
Well, I mean, he's probably the accountant, right?
What's that?
Probably the accountant, right? He is amazing at math.
This is true. He didn't. They gave the wrong Steiner the teaching job in the school board.
I still watch that.
Oh, it's so good. I remember watching that like when it first happened, and I was watching with my brother, and we were just looking at it like, we're just looking at each other dumbstruck, like, what did he say? He's like,
30,
wait. And I'm getting a calculator out. I'm trying to do the math, and I'm like, wait, no, this isn't right.
Yeah.
Just classic. It's almost as good as the Sid Vicious. I'm twice as big as you, but I have half the brain, or whatever it was that he said.
Wasn't inaccurate.
No, it wasn't. But I don't think that's what he was trying to say.
No, but it was strangely apropos.
Oh, Sid. We could do a whole show on Sid.
Yeah.
But we gotta make sure it's not softball season before we do it.
Hey, you know what? One of my favorite Shawn Michaels matches for a long time was him versus Sid, where was it Sean the cameraman?
Oh, the one where Sid hit Jose with the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Survivor Series '96. I just watched it yesterday.
It's a good match.
That's a great match. It just goes to show Sean can get a good match out of anybody.
Yeah.
And yeah, Sid was not Frank Gotch by any means, but when he just sticks with what he's good at, big boot, choke slam, clothesline, power bomb, you're good. Just
You
no
know,
leapfrogs, no big boots off the top rope,
if
no.
if his matches with Spike Dudley taught us anything, he's not even good at bumps. Like, don't either, because he about killed Spike. I don't know how many times, because Spike weighed like 19 pounds.
Yeah, soaking wet.
Accurately.
He was. I think 150 was being generous when they
Yes.
announced his weight. He was probably closer to
Abs
135.
with with weights in his pocket. Like,
Yes.
and Sid still couldn't just get him through a tech.
No.
It was pretty impressive.
No. That makes it that much more fun to watch when Spike wrestled Mike Awesome later.
Yeah.
Because Awesome was aptly named. He would when he would just carry Spike up the touch of the top rope on his shoulders. I'm
Yeah.
like, good lord! I mean, if it wasn't for his stunning lack of loyalty, then Awesome could have been one of the biggest stars ever in ECW.
Yeah.
But again, money talks. Kind of going back to the Brett thing, they backed up a armored truck to Mike Awesome's front door and said, "Hey, I don't care if you're ECW champion, come to WCW and drive a tie-dye bus and please the fat ladies, and you'll make a lot of money."
Yeah. But he had a lot of head trauma too, so it wasn't.
That he did. I mean, worked with Masato Tanaka for 10 years. It's going to happen.
I don't know how Tanaka's still alive, but
Oh my god! I think he's. I don't know for sure, but I think he's kind of lightened up on the chairs lately.
one one would hope.
Yeah, it might be a condition. It's like he can't get health insurance unless he gets up to the steel chairs.
I I I think we pretty much decided what our position on the screw job is, but I had one. There was there was something this week I wanted to talk to you about and just get your take. I don't know if you saw it. It was I think it was four or five. Was it six women? It was for like number one contendership that I don't remember one.
The one on SmackDown?
Yeah, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez.
Yeah, Lacey, Xylee, Shotzi, and somebody else. Sonia.
But so there's that spot where Raquel has can't think of her name.
I'm trying to remember. Xylee?
No.
No. I got to go
she's
back and watch the match.
she's been feuding with Liv.
Okay.
She was the general manager.
Oh, Sonia.
Yeah, I like
Deville.
she's
Sonia Deville.
Sonia's great, but
Yeah.
Raquel set Sonia up, and she was up on stairs, and there was a table behind her, and then Liv jumps from the barricade and hits this body, and as they fall, they completely miss the table. Liv's forehead comes like this far from just hitting the table. Raquel's
Mm-hmm.
neck will almost just crack through the. There was two almost deaths from that
Yeah.
spot, but Raquel was strong enough to basically dump Sonya off, who landed bad.
Right.
Yes, what I'm getting at is, so they're giving them more time to wrestle, and they're giving time to a more extreme thing. I'm going to blanket AEW with this too. So you're giving your guys more time to wrestle, which is great. But if they're using that time to just do dumber and dumber stuff, like, you got to start making sure that this stuff is safe, because like, your wrestlers are a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you lose these people. I know you can push somebody else up in their spot, but you've invested a lot of time and effort into that, and they've invested a lot of time and effort in. And like, she's been taking some like big bumps onto piles of chairs, and that spot almost killed her. And then,
Mm-hmm.
but then look at AEW. There's like, Danielson took that move from Sammy. Sammy's hurt people before
Yeah.
with stuff. he's just not super safe with stuff. And Danielson, he's not going to do something wrong, but he got kneed right in the orbital. So even Danielson, if he would have broken his orbital bone, he's out.
Yeah.
Like just a little while. I mean, it takes even a while to allow them to come back if they have a mask, because that can ruin your sight. And so I don't know if he cracked his orbital or what happened, but he definitely got. But plus, it's not like Danielson doesn't have concussion issues.
Yeah.
Like, there needs to be somebody that stands up and just says, "Okay, this is like it's okay to push the envelope, but don't be an idiot about it. There needs to start being fines or something, because one, it's not special. You do it every week, and I kind of understand it more with AEW because they don't have pay-per-views as often.
Right.
But I would save it for like a once a month thing. Allow people to use tables or chairs once a month or blood, because it was every week for a while. And it's the same thing. Like save it for a pay-per-view. It's not as much as it used to be because there's no buy rate. Everything's on the, but still, like, man,
save the table for Luchasaurus to do a choke slam through every now and then. I would say save the blood for Moxley, but he started bleeding when he sneezes. But yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like they're trying to get as much bang for their buck as they can, when you're going to get just as big a reaction and a lot better feedback if you're making it more about the psychology than about the actual high spots.
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
you can do a triple Indy or a 450 or whatever off the top of a ladder, but there's no why to it. Like, you don't know why they're doing it. If it's somebody that, say, I was going to throw a hypothetical out there. Let's say Adam Cole threw Jungle Boy off the top of a ladder through a table and put him on the shelf for 6 months. Then 6 months later, it comes around and say Jungle Boy is a surprise entrant, like the Joker in the ladder match at a pay-per-view, and Adam Cole's in the match. Then if Jungle Boy jumps off the top of a ladder onto Cole through a table, you know why.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. Nowadays, people are just doing it because it's like, look what I can do, like yelling at your mom at the swimming pool while you're on the high dive.
Yeah. Well, perfect example. One of the Young Bucks versus Lucha Brothers matches, they did a flipping pile driver off the top through tables, and there was a kick out.
Drove me nuts. I remember it. They all should have got fined for that.
Did they really?
No, I said they should have.
Oh yeah, I would have
fined them all $5,000 for stupidity.
Yeah, but like, it's not just killing moves. It's just you're killing your talent. Like, and if you're allowing them to just kill themselves, you're not doing your job. You got to protect them from themselves sometimes, because especially younger people in their 20s and early 30s that feel like they're invincible. Like, I remember those feelings. Like, but I know what it's like to get up now. Like,
we were all young and dumb once.
You have all these guys who are wrestling but they were wrestling a different way. And these younger guys, they're not going to make 50 years old. They're not going to make 40.
Not comfortably.
No.
If they do, they're going to be riding a rascal around and,
I guarantee
it was for all.
In 5 years, Sammy Guevara is not going to be doing stuff off the top.
No.
He's not going to be able to. No. And Ricochet will eventually not be able to do the things he does, and he's not even nearly as dangerous as Ricochet's. He's the cleanest of any of the guys. Like, he's pretty clean.
I think the only one who I think has better body control than Ricochet right now is Pac.
Yeah. Well, even AJ Styles will tell you the reason that he now hits, like, if he does a springboard 450, he hits it because it started to hurt too bad if you missed it.
Yeah.
So he realized that there are some things you do when you're younger that just come back to get you, and that it just bugs me that you're giving it away for free. and they're allowing their talent to do that, and it just seems like such a waste.
Yeah. It's like why buy the cow when you get the sex for free, right?
Yes.
Although I wouldn't hate seeing AJ do a spiral tap one more time. It's been about 10 years since I've seen him do it.
Yeah, I was hoping he would do that. I think it was him versus Danielson. I was hoping he would do it, or him versus
I think
somebody. I was
it
hoping.
might have been him and Edge at Mania. At least that's when the last time I thought about
Yeah,
it.
that's what I was like. Yeah, I'm hoping he pulls it out, but he didn't.
No. But that's a hard move to do from what it looks like.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
I can't do anything from the top rope. So.
I heard you did a pretty mean big splash back in the day.
No, no. I could do. I would do middle ropes, but I never want to get up on top. I just I
I
was
don't have the balance for the top rope.
just gonna fall. I
Yeah.
just gonna fall, and it's just gonna hurt. So
Just do an ST plunge, just put the arms up and just fall backwards. You go. Then throw your back out.
yeah,
But I digress. But yeah, that was an interesting topic to bring up, Gary. I'm glad you did because I think it needed to be discussed. Uh, when I saw that spot with Liv and Raquel, it reminded me of, tell me if you remember this, La Resistance and Spike Dudley on Raw when they did that double choke slam over the ropes to the floor, but they didn't clear Spike's feet. So Spike hit the base of his skull on the edge of the table. I thought he killed him.
yeah. That's because Spike's invincible, apparently.
Spike, I think Spike just knows how to make his body go limp and take all of the punishment, and then just get up and
Been dead like that. Buff Bagwell took less impact on that.
on the bulldog.
Like it just, boop, that's it.
Yeah.
Eh.
Nope. Gary
Yep.
has gone dark. Ah. All right, so Gary, we got a couple more things to get into before we call it a show here. Number one, we did this last episode for the first time, and that is the Jumping the Rail Hall of Fame. And if you remember the last episode, we put in the eighth wonder of the world, Andre the Giant, as our first inductee, and I think well deserved. And the guy I've got for this week, it kind of goes along with our Montreal Screwjob discussion, and it's not Brett and it's not Sean, but it's, I think, the most talented member of the Hart family, and that is this guy.
Oh yeah, he's definitely the best.
Rocket, Owen Hart. I mean,
By
for my
far.
money, he was so much. I thought he was better than Brett back in '94.
If you watch Owen's Japanese stuff when he first started, it's in. He was doing stuff that nobody else was doing. Like, well, I mean, he did a lot of stuff that maybe Dino did, just because he'd seen
They
it.
were Calgary guys, yeah. But he was working Liger and guys like that over there too.
Yeah, he was putting it together differently, and he was so smooth. And as a worker, he was definitely the best Hart, and as a character, he was definitely the best Hart. So if we're going with his best Hart, yeah, by a considerable distance, it's Owen. And I love that, but Brett's character was okay at best.
Yeah, it was fine for what it was. He was being himself. But then Owen had that over the top, like he could be an obnoxious heel or he could be the fiery baby face if he wanted to.
Yeah.
And the stuff he did with not even the stuff he did with Austin, which was awesome in '97, but when he was teaming with Bulldog in like '96, when they beat the Smoking Guns, and then they would do the thing where he was saying he was in charge of the team and all this, and he was playing the heel, and Bulldog was like a pseudo baby face, and then just everything he did, he could make everybody get invested in it. And if you think about, like, you look at what happened with like Austin Theory yesterday, and I'm not saying he's as good as Owen Hart because who are we kidding? He's not. But Austin Theory finally got people interested in him. yesterday on Raw. He ditched all the fluff, the cell phone. Obviously, doesn't have the briefcase anymore. But he got serious and just started kicking ass last night. Beat the shit out of Dolph, beat the shit out of Seth, and got people like organically booing him for the first time instead of just saying, "Oh, this guy's annoying as hell. I don't want him on my TV." They were actually booing him for what he was doing to the baby faces yesterday.
Yeah, and it's a shame that had happened to Dolph, because that guy, if anybody deserved anything, he deserved more. Guy has everything you ask for plus. Like, he can work, he can look, he can talk on the mic, he can be a face, he can be a heel. He's like the mini version of the Big Show.
If there's anybody on that roster right now that reminds me of Owen Hart, it's Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
For the ring work, for the personality, for the talent, He's like a glorious mixture of Owen Hart, Shawn Michaels, and Kurt Hennig all rolled into one.
Well, I mean, what's crazy is the three of those guys you just mentioned, what separates them is Shawn Michaels somehow was actually able to climb that mountain. And at the time, Shawn was climbing that mountain. Even though he was an incredible worker, he wasn't the best worker of the three. It was either Perfect or Owen, because, man, Kurt Hennig, real good.
Yeah, he good.
Real good.
Yeah. I think out of the two, though, I got to go Owen, though. Between
Owen. Yeah, man, Owen was so good. He just, everything he did was just crisp, and it was almost, I would call it buttery. It was smooth, and it always had a purpose. He never just threw something in just because. And he was able to work with everybody. He was in the Nation of Domination.
Yes.
It wasn't like you could throw him into anything and he was going to get over. And would he have ever?
Sami Zayn now.
Yeah. Would he have ever been champion? No. I don't think Vince would have ever made him champion.
See, I think there was still room for that to happen if what happened didn't happen.
Yeah. It would have been rough after the whole Blue Blazer thing, but he might have been able.
I think it could have turned back around.
Yeah.
And he could have gotten there. I like to think so anyway, because I think it's a horrible injustice that he was never a world champion somewhere.
Yeah, but instead, what we got from that whole situation? Jeff Jarrett being a 90-time champion.
Double J. Hey, they were a fun tag team too, though. Double J and Owen.
Yeah.
When they had Deborah with them.
It was the only time I really liked Jarrett. Actually, I didn't like Jarrett ever until probably these last year and a half, because his character is actually developed now. Like, his work is dirtier and grittier. It's not just him doing the same stuff over and over, him being the same expert. It's different.
I'll tell you what. The match was the shits. The Flair match at the pay-per-view. The build up was magnificent.
Oh yeah, it was great.
And most of that has to do with Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah.
If you listen to, I don't know if you ever listened to this podcast with Conrad, but there were parts of that podcast where they would get heated. They were doing some work, because Conrad's Rick's son-in-law, and they'd go back and forth, and Jarrett just really put his cards on the table on that show.
Like Flair said, is hinting at that might not have been his last match. Somebody needs to sedate him.
Yeah.
Just, they need to start slipping something into his herb, man, because he's got to stop. Because anybody who's still telling him that match was good,
or just shining him on,
he almost died.
Yeah, he passed out twice.
Yeah, Yeah, he
from
almost
not doing much. He
he wasn't
wasn't overdoing it or anything. He's just old and not
he's just
well.
yeah. He's like, well, I didn't drink enough water. Blair, how long have you been doing this? What? What? What kid?
Oh god. Oh man, we could.
No, that's awful. But yeah, I agree. Owen, I'm glad Owen finally went into a Hall of Fame. I That's another one of those subjects. There's two sides. I can see why Martha wants absolutely nothing to do with WWF, because I've watched documentaries and I've watched different things and I've read different things, and it all does really point to like last minute just slip slide, hiring people that really weren't at the top of their game,
Yeah,
and it cost her husband his life.
right.
And I can see, hey, I don't want anything to do with this company. So I don't know what Tony Khan said to her to get the
Uh,
Owen Hart
I
Memorial.
think a lot of it, I think, had to do with ponying up the money to her foundation
Well, that
for the charity, which I'm sure, and I'm playing devil's advocate again. If that was a condition for Martha, say, hey Vince, I'll let you put Owen in the Hall of Fame, but I want you to donate to our charity. If they do enough charity work in WWE, they probably would have done that in a heartbeat.
yeah,
No pun intended. But yeah, so I mean, obviously Martha's going to hold a grudge. I'm not going to fault her for that, but it, I did think it was kind of, I don't want to say petty. I don't know what the right word is for her to go and do business with another wrestling company when she basically, from what I've always heard, just hated the pro wrestling business in general. And not just WWF. She hated that Owen was wrestling, wanted him to stop all the time. And then she goes out on AEW and goes on and on about how much she was enjoying herself. And I don't blame her for enjoying wrestling. I mean, we both do. But it just seemed like she was talking out of both sides of her face. And I'm not trying to say that to, I don't want to get letters from people shaming a widow or anything, because I can't fathom what she's gone through over the last 25 years.
yeah.
But
I think at the other side, and if Vince would have been just transparent about it from the beginning and just said, hey, I screwed up, and he paid his big settlement
yeah,
like he should have done.
yeah. There's
And
uh, there's
things,
always the there's always the what if, and everybody there's not a right answer or wrong answer to this, but everybody always, most people I've talked about this say the same thing, but I want to hear what you say. Should they have stopped the show after the accident?
oh, I would have just because the dude died. Like, and they knew something really bad had happened. Like, I know there are people said, well, he hadn't died yet. Well, once you
Right.
figured
I
out,
think he was technically still alive when they got him out of the ring.
but
But
once you figured that out, you now have an entire crowd that has seen somebody die. You have a dead man's blood on the ring.
mhm.
You have
I think there's a
people,
divot in the ring.
yeah, you have people in the back who not only just work with this guy, they love this dude. Like he was popular with everybody.
Yeah.
And so then you're just like, no, we're just gonna keep doing this show. I don't care how you feel. These people pay their money. Well, you know what? There are things more important than money.
Can I? I'm going to play devil's advocate here, and like I said, I'm not. I have no skin in the game or anything. Is it possible that the pay-per-view company told Vince to keep going? It's like,
I
hey,
don't know.
Abby, we're paying you for this time for a show. I mean, it's just as
I'm
easy to say, hey,
I'm sure there might have been a fine assessed or something if they didn't give them a certain amount of time, because I know sometimes they can get fined for going over
right,
time because they're taking up other time from somebody else. So that could have been part of it. And I know he wasn't making like a metric ton of money at the time.
no,
Well, he wasn't making bad money. I think that was the middle of the Attitude Era, so he was making much better
no.
money.
It wasn't a
So
huge bite. It wasn't a huge pay per view. It was over the edge. It wasn't like it was SummerSlam or WrestleMania.
I think maybe the right thing would have been something in the middle, that he would have came out on the stage or into the ring, explained to the crowd what happened,
Hmm.
for refunds for anybody who wanted a refund and wanted to leave. The show will go on, but we had to let you know what happened because we respect you and we
Hmm.
respect Owen, but the show will continue. And on it because we think that's what he would have wanted, even if you said something like that. But
I think.
one of the things that Martha said that I agreed with completely was, so this horrible accident happens, they take him to the hospital, the show continues, and then they basically make the police wait hours to investigate the scene of a possible crime and a death. And then you're waiting for people to leave the ring. So instead of having
Hmm.
to go up
Yeah,
at
they.
a hospital scene,
Yeah, that's a part that doesn't get talked about a lot. It's like, what if that was a crime scene? That's
yeah,
kind of a can of worms there.
they didn't
But
know what happened.
yeah, and what you were saying about if Vince would have come out and done that, talked to it on the top of the stage, all that. I think that's something. If that was an ECW show, I think Paul would have done that.
Yeah. And
That's very much in Paul's wheelhouse.
what's different to me about it was a stunt done by a non-stunt man that went wrong.
Hmm.
Like when Austin broke his neck and they drug him out, or when Draws broke his neck, or and the show continued, or when Buff broke his neck, the show continued. But that was a wrestler in a wrestling ring doing
Hmm.
wrestling moves.
Yeah,
That something bad happened,
yeah.
and then he didn't. But I'm fairly sure once Masawa died in the ring, they didn't complete that show.
Well, I think that was the main event, though.
Yeah, that might have been. Yeah,
So that
probably.
might have stopped the match early, but I mean, and not making a lot of Masawa because, and that was just a freak thing. That was just a back suplex. He just landed wrong.
Well, I think it was just too many years of
Well,
landing
wear and tear,
on
yeah.
your neck and your head.
Yeah, Masawa's kind of the king of the. Oh, apologies to Nakamura. He was the king of strong style in Japan.
Oh yeah, but I was super sad that day. Masawa was my favorite,
Oh, I was stunned. I was always a Kobashi guy in Noah. Kenta Kobashi
which
was my guy, but Masawa was right up there.
which is funny because all my friends, like they all had their once we started watching All Japan and New Japan, we all had a guy. Mine was Masawa. Josh's was Kawada.
Nice, yeah.
Justin's was Kobashi. Somebody really liked Jun Akiyama. Um, there was even somebody for like Ogawa or one of those guys. But yeah, it was everybody had their favorite, and it was usually because they just like Josh liked like the little head kicks, the Wada kicks,
Hmm.
and I just loved the rolling elbow, and so there was had something for everybody. But then that was really before we started watching Hanson, and then we all just fell in love with Stan Hansen.
Right.
These Stan.
Yeah. I became a fan of Kobashi after his match with Samoa Joe in Ring of Honor.
Oh, then you went back.
Yeah, then I had to go back because I didn't see a lot of Fall Japan back before like 2000,
then
2005.
then you had to watch him get beat for like 5 years by Masao.
Yeah, I watched a lot of Masawa matches. The one he had where he finally beat Masawa,
Oh
Burning
man,
Hammer in the middle of the ring. Uh,
that roof, like for a Japanese crowd, that was the hottest crowd and reaction I've ever heard. Because when
yeah,
he hit that and got that pin, that place went insane.
yeah.
Because
I love.
it was a buildup of years and years and years,
Yeah, it
just almost getting there.
it made Raven and Dreamer look like a walk in the park.
Yes, it did.
But also, I mean, Kobashi, he only did that move like what 8 times in his career, the Burning Hammer.
Like that. Well, it was kind of like
That was like his in case of emergency break glass finish.
yeah. Well, Misawa had the
Hammer
top
explosion.
90, was it 2 or 91?
Tiger Driver 98, I think. Or it
Yeah,
might have been 91.
but
He
he
had
only
so many
did
Tiger Drivers.
because that was really dumb.
Yeah, just drop a fight on your head, you know.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, everybody had their in case of emergency brake glass move. And then eventually Misawa got the Emerald Trojan,
Yeah,
and Kobashi had the Orange Crush Bomb,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and he would break that out.
Then you do that
Like,
sleeper suplex too.
yeah. Uh,
That Half Nelson sleeper suplex. Madness.
oh,
He did that
yeah.
to Joe. Samoa Joe was 300 pounds and he did it to him.
Well, Kobashi's not a small dude.
No. Kobashi
They
was
all
a stud, man.
they all learned that physique from the Road Warriors.
Yeah.
Road Warriors came over and they taught them how to work out,
Yeah.
which
Mm-hmm.
would probably require a little more than just weights.
A little pharmaceutical enhancement, maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe touch. They all got Zubas to go with their Ribera Steakhouse jackets.
Well, that's what it was. It's Zubaz and Ribera Steakhouse jackets. That's why we're not Rip Mark. You only have one of the two.
That's right. Although I
And
did find on eBay they have Ribera jackets for like $60
on eBay,
on eBay. So I've
Ribera
thought
jacket?
about it. It looks like the Ribera Steakhouse jackets.
And does it have Ribera on it, or
Yeah, I'll have to send you a link, but it's been considered by me. I haven't pulled the trigger. I think I might get a look from the wife if I buy a jacket
Yeah.
from a Japanese steakhouse because wrestlers wear them. But
yeah, I think I'd probably get a look too.
it's all right.
But anyway, Owen Hart, Hall of Fame.
Owen Hart, yes. You're very good at getting us back on track, Gary. I appreciate that.
Not super good, but good enough.
You're getting there. All right, so we got a few more minutes here, Gary, and it's time for. I'm just going to call it now. It's the part of the show that's going to get me a lot of heat from people when they hear what we got. It is time for Top 10 Tuesday, brought to you by ProWrestlingTees.com/JTRPod for all your Jumping the Rail merchandise needs. I'm getting pretty good at this shilling stuff here. And our topic this week, the greatest WWF or WWE tag teams. And I've done a version of this list before, but I've always done like best of the 90s or best of the 80s. You know, I just figured the hell with it. I was going to do all overall. You know, why not? And we'll see what I come up with here. And most of it, everybody on this list has held the world titles at least twice on here. And this isn't a list of my favorite tag teams because this would be a very different list, just as a disclaimer. So we're going to start with our number 10, Undertaker and Kane, two-time WWF Tag Team Champions, WCW Tag Team Champions, plus one of the more over acts in the company for, ever, you know,
Yeah.
for a good 20 years. And I liked them as a tag team, especially in the invasion angle when they were going with Page and Canyon in the cage at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
And basically just them stopping Page and Canyon from running away for 15 minutes before they finally just killed them. Kind of sucked. They got stuck working Chronic at the next pay-per-view, which I liked Chronic in WCW, but they were not the same Chronic in September 2001.
I don't know how that translated so badly.
That might have been Taker doing a favor for his buddy Crush, getting him a booking.
Yeah, it could have been.
Yeah. But so they're my number 10. Some people might say they're too low on the list. Some people might say they're too high on the list. It's hard to say. Number 9, going way back to the 70s. Mr. Fuji and Professor Tanaka. They're with the Hollywood fashion plate, Freddie Blassie there, giving the Donald Trump sign, thumbs up. And 3-time tag champs, and not counting the other like 2 or 3 times Fuji held it with Saito. But they were one of those dominant tag teams. This is back, I think, a little before the Samoans got there. like around the time the Valiant Brothers and the Strongbows, all those like real tough tag teams back in the 70s. But excuse me while I cough into my banjo. And but yeah, it's just there was two fail safes if you wanted to be a really effective heel in the 70s, either be Russian or be Japanese.
Well, yeah, because that's
In the 60s it was be a German.
yeah.
But 70s it was Japanese or Russian, and that was a fail safe. And Fuji did it so well. Tanaka was more of just he was Odd Job in the James Bond pictures. So, but Fuji he was one of my favorite heels just because he was such a dirty bastard with the salt and the chops to the throat and all that stuff. But yeah, so I got them at number 9. I might have had them higher, but they were from a bygone era, if you will. Unlike these guys, my number 8, the aforementioned Wild Samoans, Afa and Sika here. Later on, they would have a third, which was Samu from the Head Shrinkers. But this was before the Bloodline. These guys were the Bloodline. They were 3-time tag champs, managed by Captain Wu, and pretty much ran every tag division they were ever a part of. The Crockett's, Hawaii, San Francisco, McMahon, and they were main eventing a lot of the shows back then, like at the Garden or whenever they make the loop. They were tag teaming in the main event, either with the tag teams defending the titles, or they would just work like Andre and Snuka or Rocky Johnson or whoever. But they were such a cool act, just with their look and their style and everything. And I think that's why I liked the Head Shrinkers when they came around in the 90s, because it was kind of a throwback to that, which is kind of, you don't get that out of a lot of Samoan wrestlers these days. I mean, you get a little bit of that out of Jacob Fatu in MLW, but it was kind of like, this was like the groundbreaking like tag team, the Samoans. So I had to put them on there. I probably could have had them a little bit higher, to be honest with you, but that's not the last Samoan tag team you'll see on this list. So let's move on to number 7. This is the first one I think that's going to get me in trouble. I got the Hardys at number 7, and if it was up to me, I would have had them lower. But 6-time champs, I've never really been a fan of the Hardys per se. Just not a big fan of their style, but success speaks for itself.
Never been like when they first came out, they were kind of different.
Yeah.
First, I mean, you had that first ladder match that was nobody ever seen. But then after that, everything was the same. Like they were as formulaic as you could possibly get, and I just never cared after that. Honestly, like my team during that time was the Dudleys. They were really good.
Yeah, I like the Dudleys too back then. I mean, I still do. But the Hardys, they were for the ladies. The girls liked them because they take their shirts off and had the long hair and did the flippy shit and all that. So, but they were a big deal in the Attitude Era, so they made the list. Number 6, I would have had these guys higher, but they didn't really work like a tag team per se. Road Dogg and Billy. We've talked about that before, Gary.
Hated them. They never did any tag team moves. They had the tag team championships. I don't know how many times. I'm sure you do.
7 times, 6 or 7 times.
6 or 7 times. Didn't have a tandem finisher. Didn't have any tandem moves. It was just 2 dudes out wrestling. And the only thing they would do together was cut a promo at the very beginning of the match.
Yeah.
And honestly, that was mostly Road Dogg.
Yeah.
So, but I guess if you're not down with that.
Yeah, I guess. But now who's laughing because Billy Gunn's the most over thing in AEW right now.
Billy Gunn's working, talking, moving is better than he's ever been. I actually enjoy it. It's impressive. Like
it really is.
Modern science, man. Apparently. Gotta be
Yeah. Yes.
Can't think of
All right.
anything else to be giving 50-plus-year-old men those kind of muscles.
Yeah,
And
I'm
it,
not sure how old he is. He's like 50. I don't know if he's 54, maybe a little older.
oh yeah, he's
But
old and
he looks like he's built like a brick shit house. Just, I was going to say it.
let to get an idea of maybe what I'm talking about. Sting is like 60 something,
Uh-huh.
but he wrestles with his shirt on, and I'm sure he's
Mm-hmm.
still working out.
I'm sure.
But
He doesn't
but
tone.
apparently he has not found this well of Don Quixote that
I
everybody
believe
else.
in Ponce de Leon, the Fountain of Youth.
Not Don Quixote. Ponce
Don
de
Quixote.
Yeah. Well, he was tilting at windmills, but Ponce de
Yes.
Leon was trying to find the Fountain of Youth.
Well, I'll tell you who found the Fountain of Youth is Action Mike Jackson. He's 70 some years old. He's still working.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a junior heavyweight enhancement guy in Carolinas and Alabama in the 80s. And
Wow.
he beat Joey Janela at GCW a few months ago.
Of course he did.
I think everybody has. But anyway, so the next edition of the going to get into a lot of trouble for this choice is my number 5, and we kind of talked about him a little bit earlier. I got the Hart Foundation, number 5, 2-time champs. I like them best, I think, in that second title run when they beat Demolition at SummerSlam 2 out of 3 falls.
Yeah.
But I was always more of an Anvil guy. My brother was a big Brett guy. I liked Anvil because he was funny looking and he laughed like a psycho. And but yeah, they were awesome tag team in an era of awesome tag teams. Uh, again, not my favorite tag team back then. I was a Strike Force guy, believe it or not, in the late '80s.
Of course.
What do you mean? Of course, I was. I liked Tito Santana back when I was a kid. I thought he was awesome.
Chico Santana.
Chico Santana, the the burrito salesman in Tijuana, as Jesse Ventura would say, which you can't say now, and I'm regretting paraphrasing. Uh,
Not
but no,
not
it's
not the thoughts or the feelings of jumping.
no.
Jesse,
The opinions of Jesse Ventura do not reflect those of the JTR Podcast Network. And cleared of all problems. All right, but no, the Hart Foundation. I thought they were good. I don't think they were the be all end all. In that era, it probably would have been the Bulldogs, but they didn't make this list because they only held the titles once, and they spent a lot of their time hurt in the late '80s. But that's neither here nor there. All right, let's move on to number 4. We just mentioned him a few minutes ago. There you go. The got the Dudleys in number 4. I think I got them at number 4 because they weren't a homegrown WWF tag team. Everybody else on this list was made in WWF as like teamed up together. But the Dudleys are the ones that came over from ECW. They were already 8-time champs there. They won another 8 or 9 championships in WWE, WWF, and then who knows how many they won in Impact in Japan afterwards.
you better get done, man. You're gonna cough
I'm
yourself to death.
I'm fighting through. I'm gonna make it. I'm still I'm kicking out of this COVID booster backlash here, but at least I didn't cough into the banjo this time.
I
But
was just
me boys, Gerald.
I was trying to see if there's anybody on our Facebook, not Facebook, but YouTube.
Oh, I think they're a little tardy. They'll I'm sure I'll hear about it from Dwayne. I think Dwayne might be not home. That's why he's not listening to this.
Yeah. So we got top 4 now, top
Yeah,
3.
number four. We're talking about the Dudleys, and then and we already talked about how much we love the Dudleys.
The Dudleys are a team that I know a lot of people talk well about them, but they're probably the most criminally underrated tag team. They were just really good. They had tandem maneuvers,
Mm-hmm.
promos, they had character work. They could be face or they could be heel. They sacrificed their bodies. They made people look good in the ring with them. They did everything you're supposed to do as a tag team.
Yeah. And for my money, best tag team finish of all time, that 3D.
Oh yeah, 3D. Yeah, it's very impressive.
Only
Look,
kicked out of once ever.
yeah, that
And
was just.
that was by the Machine Guns in their last match.
Oh, that's right.
Well, last match, finger quotes,
Yeah.
because is there ever really a last match in pro wrestling?
Which is a shame because I don't really like either one of the Machine Guns, but that's okay.
Really? I always liked
Yeah.
Alex Shelley. I thought Shelley was fun to watch. Still is. But
If I had to pick, Shelly would be my guy.
yeah. All right, let's go to number 3. Another one probably people say, why aren't they higher? Boom.
Oh,
This was these guys were the top tag team when I first started watching wrestling. Like, well, a little after, by '88. 3-time champs, not wildly popular with the company nowadays,
not
as I
not
understand it.
Kiss. They weren't Kiss either.
No, everybody says they were Road Warrior ripoffs. I never saw that.
No, they were just
They
Kiss
look,
rip.
yeah, with the little Judas Priest.
Yeah, with a little priest. But yeah,
But yeah, everybody says they looked and acted like they didn't wrestle like the Road Warriors. They didn't look like the Road Warriors. They didn't talk like the Road Warriors.
no, they
If
were always.
anybody was a Road Warrior ripoff in the WWF, it was the Powers of Pain.
Yeah.
They were pretty much a carbon copy Road Warriors, from the haircuts to the tights to the, they were big muscled guys. The Demolition were big, strong guys, but they were not bodybuilders like the Road Warriors were.
No.
And their
No,
finish was a very underwhelming finish, if you ask me, too. The elbow.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hoping the Beverly Brothers are number 1.
I'm sorry, the Beverly Brothers did not make the cut. If it was greatest AWA tag teams, they would have got on there. The Destruction Crew.
Was it Wayne Bloom and Mike Enos?
Mike Enos,
Yeah.
the guy who was in the ring when Scott Hall debuted.
The only reason I know that is because when they came to WCW, they went by their real names.
Yes.
I had to figure out why they mattered. They're like, it's Wayne Bloom and Mike Enos. And I'm like, who's that? And then I'm like, why does that matter?
It's like, why are they getting so excited about the Beverly Brothers showing up here? All right, so Demolition's my number 3, and they were pretty dominant back in the late '80s, but they didn't have a long run. They were only for a couple years before they kind of Axe finally, his body kind of failed him, that he had to give it up, and they brought in Crush. It wasn't quite the same, So that's why they're on number 3. Number 2, I think, is an easy one. Edge and Christian. Any team that can win the World Tag Team Championship 7 times in 1 year is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Because you look at their resume, you think they were together for years. They only teamed up for about 2 years.
Yeah. And the crazy thing, I mean, like we were talking about earlier, I think part of that was there was really only like 3 teams like doing like this dance with each other. And so you were just back and forth between the Dudleys, the Hardys, because that's what was making money at the time, was just those guys putting on just phenomenal matches. I mean, it shortened careers. Well, not really. I mean, they're all still working. Not some of them.
It paused some careers.
What?
It paused some careers. Edge and Christian both took several years off in between, like when they made their comeback.
Jeff Hardy retired years ago.
Yeah.
That dude is just a mass injuries.
Yeah, and he's also a mess of bad decisions.
Oh, yeah, those outweigh the injury.
If anybody can be considered their own worst enemy, it is Jeff Hardy. But how do we get back on the Hardys? We were number 7 for a reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, Edge and Christian, they were my favorite. Like, as much as I love the Dudleys, Edge and Christian was my favorite because they were just so goofy back then.
Oh,
with the pose and the way they would do their interviews and everything. It was just entertaining to me. the stuff with Angle.
Kirk Angel.
Kirk Angel, yeah. Sometimes they would work with Mr. Roboto.
Yeah. Totally
Jericho always had the really hip references for the wrestling fans in 2000. But yeah, so I think Edge and Christian is a strong number 2. Insert joke there. So my number 1, I think, is going to get me a lot of heat, but it makes sense to me just for longevity, for success, for what they've been doing. A number 1 tag team, and I don't have a drum roll loop, so just imagine one. You got to put the Usos number 1 right now.
Yeah, right now, yeah.
And these lists are so subjective; they can change one week to another. But right now, I mean, there's no better team than the Usos in WWE.
Over all time, I would definitely put the New Day ahead of them, just because of the amount of time, not amount of time they were champions, but just the amount of times they've been champions. And since they were able to do that with 3 different men and stay together as long as they have, like that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and now the Usos are the top of the WWE hill.
Yeah. I gave a lot of thought to putting the New Day on there, but the reason I didn't is because they were 3 guys.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the same 2 guys holding the titles every time.
I understand Roman having the titles as long as he's had more. I don't get it. I would have dropped the belt to Edge at Mania because he was hot. Yeah, he was hot, and you don't know how long you got him.
That's
and
true.
You need to capitalize on that. And apparently, you only had him like 2 or 3 years, and they haven't done anything really with him. He could have been your champion. He could at least done TVs. And
if I was going to take the belt off Roman, I would have put it on Drew at the Clash at the Castle.
Or that, yeah, because Drew deserves it, and I'm just tired. I think if I wasn't so tired of, even in their Usitude, their Usitude, their Usiness, and it's kind of reinvigorated some interest in them, but man, they have just been beating me over the head with the Usos and Roman Reigns and the Bloodline, and I don't care.
Here's the thing: there's not a lot of strong tag team contenders in the WWE right now to take the titles off the Usos. I mean, Montez is hurt, so Street Profits are out for the time being.
But they've had time to create tag teams, and they haven't even done that.
Yeah, but the problem is they're doing it wrong. And here's what I mean. I mean, they're putting guys together, but they're trying to fast track it before these guys. Like back in the day, they would put 2 guys together on the house show loop for a few weeks, let them build up their chemistry, get their tag, get their moves set, and all that. Now they're just going straight to TV, and if they're not gelling with their chemistry, the fans are just going to shit on it immediately, and then there's no coming back from that. And I think that RK Bro was, I think, the exception to the rule. Maybe maybe Alpha Academy.
It feels like Randy got really hurt or something, but yeah, Alpha Academy, they were. Chad Gable, dude's a stud.
He's awesome.
Absolute stud. He has every ability that Kurt Angle had. He's got comedy now. He knows how to cut a promo now. He
knows how to play that crowd like a fiddle.
Strong as an ox.
Yeah.
That dude is dumb, stupid.
He can throw anybody. He could probably throw Lesnar if he wanted to.
Otis, who is just a wrecking ball. That team won the title. Well, they did have a title, didn't they?
They did for a little bit.
And then they lost it. But I mean, I don't know why they're the job team.
They're almost like the gatekeepers now.
my thing is, I think they need to actually bring, along with kayfabe coming back, they need to bring back jobbers, not like Dolph Ziggler jobbers, like guys who you
Like
know,
vocal enhancement guys,
like Brooklyn Brawler,
like a
like
Barry
guys,
Horowitz.
yeah, looking that work in the back basically, but every once in a while you bring them out for enhancement. Like now they just get the indie guys when they need, and that's fine too. If you want to just hire guys from
Right?
indies that day of, yeah, go ahead and do that. But I want to see that more because then that helps protect people.
Yeah.
And if you want Dolph Ziggler to get a win, you have him come up and be an enhancement guy. Give him
Yeah.
5 minutes. And
Can I tell you what I want to see happen? So Theory beats the shit out of Dolph last night. Puts him. It seems like they've thinking about it for a while. Austin needs to come out next week talking about Seth, about what he did. Then he needs to get a run in from one Robert Roode. Come get a little payback for his buddy. Because Rude's one of those guys that can really make Theory in the ring.
yeah,
He'll make him look great. He'll put him over the moon. And they're not doing much with Rude right now for whatever reason. I think he's working young guys on like the house shows, or I don't know. I think he was charged with coming up like helping Veer find his feet on the road. Didn't really work out so well. I mean, Veer's back in NXT now, but
yeah. Well, that'll happen
yeah. Oh,
when you're
hey, we
not.
got a comment on the as we're about to say goodnight here. David Rocha, how long do you think it will take to break the Usos' reign? 3 to 5 years, or will it be the next generation in a decade or so? I don't think it'll be that long. I mean, I think it's just, in my opinion, and I know he's hurt for a little while. Eventually, Sammy's going to get the boot from the bloodline. It just, it's coming. So then I think it's going to be him and Owens to beat the Usos and take those tag
Yeah,
titles.
I mean it makes sense. And
Yeah.
then it's going to be Kevin because they haven't done anything with Owens in a long time. So I think they're kind of saving him. And
Well,
you see, I
I
think when
think
you
they
start
said as much.
what?
I think they said as much. They were going to pull the trigger on Sammy, but then he got over like doing the
Yeah,
bloodline. They're stretching it out more. But I think
yeah.
that was the plan, is to get Sammy out, put him with KO.
Well, when you're that oopsie, you,
Yeah, the Oos is strong with Sami Zayn. Well, Gary, this it went a little bit longer than we usually do, but I think we covered some good topics here. Maybe stirred up a little controversy. If you guys didn't catch this live, and if you did, we appreciate it. This will still be on our Jumping the Rail YouTube channel, and it will drop on the podcast on Thursday morning if you want to check it out. And we will, of course, next week we won't be on. It's our off week, but we hope you guys have a good Thanksgiving holiday, and don't eat yourself too crazy like I'm probably going to do. Uh, so in 2 weeks we're going to come back. I'm going to real quick pay the bills, Gary. ProWrestlingTees.com / JTR Pod for all your Jumping the Rail T-shirts and other merchandise, which is just T-shirts. We don't have anything else on there right now. But we got plenty of cool designs, I think, and anything you guys want to get helps us keep the lights on and keep the microphones plugged in on this podcast. And keep an eye out tomorrow on the JTR Podcast Network's YouTube, the 01 Shootout podcast. Myself and our buddy Menders, who's been on the show a few times, talking 01. We're going to be talking with their tag team champions, Country Air, Zach Hendricks and Doc Simmons tomorrow before the big Ambition show on Saturday. And then yeah, and other than that, we're going to keep putting stuff on the Twitter, on the social media, and everything. So, Gary, if do you have anything you want to add before we say goodnight here?
no, no. I think I got all my complaining out
For now.
for now. Yeah,
For now.
Let me reload.
Yeah, we'll reload. I can always find something to get you grumpy about. Uh,
Oh yeah,
yeah. So until next time, enjoy Full Gear on Saturday, or if you're watching GCW, whatever wrestling you're watching, and watch it and enjoy it. And for my buddy Gary, this is Reb reminding you all life is hard, so work stiff. See you later and enjoy the new credits.